Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Kershaw Natrix. This is Kershaw's take on model 0770 from their sister company Zero Tolerance. Really popular model, really great looking model, and of course Kershaw being the more budget of the two lineups, this is going to be the budget version of that. So you can find this for under $29. Didn't see that the black coated blade version was in stock. However, the stonewash version with the black G10 is in stock at $28 and some change. So that's what I'm going to be linking to in the description of this video. Now, being the more budget price version, there are going to be some trade-offs. Zero Tolerance is of course made here in America, where Kershaw is made in China, or at least this model of Kershaw. There are some American-made Kershaw models, but this one is made in China to keep costs down. You're also going to get more budget materials. We have G10 handles on here, 8CR13 MOV blade, and I have absolutely nothing wrong with that steel at this price point. Great steel for the price, and yeah, really kind of a great option if you don't want to spend ZT money, but you like this design. I think it's a really good looking design overall. Now, one other thing worth noting, if you look under that Kershaw logo, it says Speedsafe. This is part of their Speedsafe lineup, meaning that it's an assisted opening. And honestly, I'm not a fan of assisted opening, and that's the case here too. I really enjoyed this knife, but it's more in spite of it being an assisted opening than that being a feature that's a selling point for me. Now, arguably, it does open a little bit faster than your standard flipper. If it does, it's going to be pretty negligible, fractions of a millisecond. But to me, that's really not worth the trade-off in how much more inconvenient they are to close. Most locks you can push down on this subframe lock. In this case, you can push down on that, it'll start dropping. You see nothing happens. You have to push down on that in order to get it to close, and that's because it's under spring tension. It wants to be open, and of course it tries to spring open, so you're never going to be able to shake this shut, drop it shut, anything like that. You'll always have to either use a second hand or press this against a table, your leg, the nearest wall, whatever the case may be, but it's going to need some assistance to get that closed. And to me, that's not worth the marginal difference in speed of opening. I find flippers very convenient and quick to open, so don't really notice much of a difference there. But overall, I still really enjoy this knife. Particularly cutting with this knife, I was very, very pleasantly surprised. It's pretty comfortable in hand as well. Also, just a great EDC size. This is 7.5 inches overall. We get 3¼ inch of cutting edge here, flat grind on there. Kind of a drop point style blade. It's like a modified drop point, a little bit of a hybrid between a drop point and a Wharncliffe, but definitely has more of a belly of a drop point. Now we have this fuller up top that's really not adding any sort of functionality. You might be wondering if you can get purchase on that to flick it open with your thumb or even spidey flick it, but for me, I'm not able to get purchase there. That doesn't mean someone else can't, but I've never been able to open it with that fuller, so we're limited to that one deployment method, which is our flipper tab. You do have some jimping on that flipper tab that gives you really nice access to there. You're never slipping off of it. Really easy to deploy this knife, so that's great. And pretty comfortable in hand as well. We got 4¼ inches on the handle, some nice jimping on that thumb ramp, so really lock in nicely there. I find the handle to be very comfortable for full 4-finger grip on there. The only thing is it could be a little bit more robust. That would add a little bit of weight and thickness to it, but after a while you do start to feel the thinness just a little bit on the interior of that grip. It's not particularly a hot spot, but you definitely become aware that it's a thinner knife and you start feeling the lines there. And I would imagine if you're really, really doing some extensive cutting, that could develop into a hot spot. It really didn't for me, but not to say that it wouldn't. Now, it's a nice deep carry pocket clip on here, kind of a shorty. I like the pocket clip quite a bit. I like how there's this cutout on either side. It is reversible and deep carry, obviously. So really like the pocket clip overall. Slides into the pocket easy. Have never had issues with it falling out or anything like that. So no complaints there. No lanyard hole, although I guess if you had to have a lanyard, you can put it through the pocket clip opening here. That would block your access to the screws, but you really usually just set that and forget it anyway. Kind of a cool looking pivot on here. I like the overall design on that. It kind of reminds me of like a golf cart rim or something. I don't know. It doesn't add anything, but not too bad looking. I like the overall lines on this knife. It's got a really sleek design. Sub frame lock, and so it's not exactly a frame lock, it's not exactly a liner lock, they're calling it a sub frame lock, so this is a separate piece from the rest of the handle. It's closer to a frame lock than a liner lock though, since you have that exterior access, and you can put pressure on it while it's closed that would kind of limit your opening and kind of slow it down a little bit. Although since it is assisted, probably still not going to have any issues with that. That I was pressing down as hard as I could on the frame lock or that subframe lock, and it really didn't cause any issues. So I guess that is something nice about it being assisted, is it just kind of fought right through that. But don't love the look of it overall. I think that's kind of bad looking, but not a deal breaker. This is also available in copper. If I were going to purchase this rather than getting a subscription, I probably would have purchased the copper version. That does jump you up to about the $50 mark and is going to add some weight as well. I didn't look up what the weight on these was on the website, but I did weigh this one in at 2.97 ounces. So pretty lightweight for the size of this knife. Pretty happy with that. Both in hand, feels super lightweight. Don't really notice it in the pocket, so all good there. Already mentioned this one being made in China, and that's kind of to be expected at this price point. But I think this is a really great little knife, especially if you're kind of interested in the ZT0770 but don't want to spend zero tolerance money on it. This is a really great alternative. You're not buying a clone. This is the same company. Parent company is Kai USA. You see them right here on the back, and they own the patent on this design. This model is 7007 BLK, but of course I will link to it in the description. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one down in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider giving me a like, comment, subscribing to the channel, or joining it as a member. They all help the channel out a ton. Don't know if I mentioned that G10 backspace are pretty good looking overall, nothing too crazy, but I do like the kind of cutouts here. Gives it a nice appearance overall. But appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.